Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF. Bava Basra Mem Daled. We are holding right on top on the first line. V'loikma begazlan. We're picking up where we left off yesterday. We had a brisa with two parts. Part A discussed a real estate sale. Reuven sold a piece of property to Shimon. He cannot turn around and vouch for Shimon's ownership because he's in a geya. He has a vested interest. He's not neutral in this type of setting. Whereas if he sold him a non-real estate object, a Bava Basra, he can get involved in the process. That was the brisa. Now, Rav Sheshes added another twist to the brisa. He says like this: we're speaking where the item was stolen from Shimon by Reuven. Reuven is the ganav who stole the property, or in the case of the para, he stole it from Shimon and turned around and sold it to Levi, who is now being challenged by another party altogether, Yehuda out there, who's claiming, well, actually, it's mine. It was always mine. It was my family's plot or item. So according to Rav Sheshes, the Bryce is coming and teaching us as follows. Shimon, the victim of this robbery, who apparently has some sort of gain and benefit, he prefers that Levi retain possession at this point because he's just an easier person to deal with down the road when he'll try to retrieve his property by proving that he was the rightful owner. He was the victim of this robbery. So he'd like to challenge Yehuda and get him off the map, get him off the case. So when it comes to the first case, the property situation, he can't do that because he's Noigea Be'edus. He has an interest in challenging Yehuda because this will ultimately bring him gain. Whereas if it's a Bava Basra, which is far gone because it already exchanged hands, it's already been moved around, and there was Yi'ush, he had already given up on it, he no longer has a right to reclaim it, in which case he's an uninvolved, unbiased party, and he can now vouch for Levi's ownership. So in a nutshell, that was the explanation provided by Rav Sheshes on this price. Asks the Gemara, why do we need that whole middle step with the robbery that was sold? Who needs that? V'loikma begazlan. According to this approach, the brisa should have skipped the whole sale part. Why is that pertinent? The Rashbam is Geras Velisni, begazlan. The brisa should have just stuck to a gazlan, meaning Shimon owned this property, Reuven stole it from him, and now Reuven, who is in possession of this stolen goods, is being challenged by another party altogether, by Yehuda, and Shimon, the victim of this robbery, would like to vouch, so to speak, for Reuven and fend off Yehuda's challenge for the reasons we mentioned before. Same exact equation with a smaller configuration. Why get involved with selling the property with another person? Right? Why is that pertinent to the case? The answer is that is necessary for the second part of the brisa, because as we just explained, when it's a para, it's a talis at stake, Shimon can get involved because he no longer has a right to reclaim the item once it already changed hands so many times, and he was miya'ish from it, he gave up on it, he loses rights, he loses ownership. So in this case, he's unbiased. So that's why it was important to insert that extra step with a buyer in the middle, because that affects change of ownership in terms of the part B of the brisa, the Bava Basra. Mishum de Kabbalah Business Sefer, because we were basically preparing ourselves in advance of the next part of the brisa. Machale para, machale talis, right? We had a fellow who lost a para or a talis by way of robbery, and then the item was unloaded to another person, the dafka. So over there, in that seifa, the reason why it works is the dafka machar. It's only because the gazlan sold it to another person, the havala yush, and now we have both elements that combine to remove any ownership claims from the original owner. The havala yush, because he gave up on it, he abandoned it. That's what we're speaking about. V'shina rishus. On top of that, the item changed hands from the gazlan to the buyer. So that's an effective disengagement. and he no longer has a right to reclaim it, so therefore he can vouch for the item's owner because he's not planning on getting it back. The dafka machar, it only works because it was stolen. Avalei machar, but let's suppose it was not sold. Dafka because it was sold. Avalei machar, but if not for that sale, the hadra, in which case it can theoretically be returned, should be returned to the original owner, the hadra, it will come back to him. So here he cannot contribute his 2 cents because he has a vested interest here, he has an agenda, he's planning on getting it back. So in part B of the Brisa, the sale was a crucial element in forging this halacha. So on account of that, Tanaresh Nami Machar. Therefore, in part A, with the real estate issue, we also inserted the sale aspect, even though it's not really necessary, because the same exact halacha would apply otherwise. Asks the Gemara, okay, now let's focus on the seifa. V'seifa nami, nehida miyayish megufei. True, we know this fellow had abandoned it, had given up hope of retrieving his item. He did yush from the item itself. But midmei miyayish, since when did he give up on his monetary claim to retrieve the value of the item that was stolen from him? So he's still involved. He's still planning on getting compensated. Oh, we're speaking that the gazlan who stole it from him died. In which case the kids don't pick up the tab and not responsible to compensate, not obligated to compensate this fellow. This not as we have in the Mishnah, Bava Basra, if a fellow steals something and feeds his kids, or he steals it and he passed away and he leaves it for the kids, they don't have to repay. Right? So the kids are not obligated to compensate the victim because there's yush and there's shini rishus. Right? There was a change of hands, a change of possession. And they didn't steal it; they got it from the father. So that's where it is. It's stuck there. Okay, so this fellow has no chance of getting anything back. He's not an involved party. He's totally neutral at this point, and therefore he can get involved in the process, in defending Levi, the current possessor, against Levi, against Yehuda, who's claiming to be the owner. Asks the Gemara, okay, now once we've gotten to this point that we're speaking about Yerushin, so back to the question, why do we need a buyer? You're looking to have this thing change hands many times, right? From the victim to the gazlan to the next person. Okay, but once we're speaking that the gazlan passed away and we have the kids here, that's all you really need. Instead of insisting that he sold it to somebody else so it changed hands another time, just stick to the fact that he died and went on to his kids. Nobody bought it. Nobody was involved in buying or selling. Reuven stole Shimon's item, passed away, and passed it on to his kids. So you have Yush and Shini Rishus. The same halacha would apply. Well, this would work according to the opinion that Rishus or Yerush, lav, Rishus like Echtami. That the possession of a Yerush is not considered like another step. It's not like selling it to another person. And therefore the Yerush is not really koinet. And the Rashbam says, well, what about that Mishnah we just had? Okay, he interprets the Mishnah differently. So according to this opinion, that is not lav kerushus lekechtami shaper. So that explains why the Brisa needed to insert another step in the story. We need a lekeach to sort of distance it from the victim, because the next possessor is called shini rishus, and therefore he has no way to reclaiming the item. But according to the Shita, that the Yerush is like a lekeach. If it gets passed on from the father, who's the ganav, to the kids, to the Yerush, it's as though it was given to a stranger. Now it's disengaged from the former victim, from the former owner. So now Michael, so why get a buyer involved? This in itself suffices to disengage and disconnect from the victim. That's one kasha we have on this pshat of Rav Sheshes, in explaining our brisa. Abai had another question, a more linguistic question. The brisa tells us, why can the victim not get involved when it's real estate that was taken from him? Well, in terms of real estate, the achrayus is on him. He's responsible. In terms of a par of a talis, he's not responsible. Why is that a factor? Are we speaking about responsibility? Are we speaking about the effort that he's making in ultimately retrieving his item? In terms of real estate, ultimately he can get it back. So that's why he's being involved. In terms of the par of a talis, it's not going to come back to him. It's gone. That's what the Brisa should use that expression to explain the halacha. Why get the word achrayus involved? So, because of these kashas, the Gemara will now propose another totally new way to explain the Brisa. Elo the Rabbi Bar Shmuel, the Amar Rabbi Bar Shmuel Mishmei. The Shmuel, he quotes Shmuel as follows: that the Brisa is discussing the following case, a more straightforward, simple case. Forget about stealing. So the Brisa had two parts: real estate and non-real estate. It goes like this: Hamaycher Sadul Chaveri. Reuven sold his field to Shimon Shlei B'Achrayus without Achrayus. He's not guaranteeing the sale. Anything happens, it's your issue, not mine. Ein Meid Lo Yaleh. So now, if a stranger comes and challenges Shimon's ownership, claiming that, this thing was mine all along, Reuven can vouch for Shimon, yeah. He can vouch for Shimon, he can back up Shimon. Sorry, he can't. He's trying to back up Shimon, but he cannot. We don't allow it to. You know why? Because he has potential gain from Shimon assuming ownership. Ein meid lo yaleh. You know why? Because suppose Reuven owed money to the bank. One day the bank comes to cash in on their defaulted loan. Where are they going to go? To this very property. So he's really making it available for the bank to take. And since Reuven did not really warranty the sale, he has all gain from the bank taking it. He's not going to have to compensate Shimon. So he has an interest in having Shimon retain rights to the property in face of Yehuda's challenge. V'dafka Bai says, so this only applies to real estate, which the bank can come and seize, right? Because it's mishubad to the bank on account of Reuven's loan from the bank. But when it comes to a par of a talis, an item which is not a real estate related entity, then there's no issue with Reuven helping Shimon retain possession. Because even if he does hold on to the item, the bank will never come repossess it. They have no right to collect from Metaltalim. Metaltalim are not committed to loans. Needless to say, it goes without saying, Bistama, in a regular standard case where he didn't specifically commit this item to his loan. So of course it's not mishubad to the loan, it's not committed to the bank, there's no lien on it. My time, you know why? These are movable items. Typically, metaltal are not mishubad. They're not bound. They're not committed to loan repayments. Even though in the ishtar, the loan document, he committed in writing, look, I'm committing to repay the loan. And you can even take from the shirt on my back. That only applies when the borrower happens to have this shirt. But it's not in his possession, it's already been sold. That's not included in this commitment. So certainly there's no concern of conflict of interest. Here comes the chiddush. Even if Reuven had specifically committed this item, look, if I default on the loan, you have a right to take this item. It's called an apoitiki. It's a stronger type of commitment. Even in this type of case, we're not concerned about a conflict in interest. Why? My time. You know why? As Rava says, Dama Rava. Asa avde apoitiki. A person made his slave as an apoitiki for a loan. And then he sold the evet to yet another person. and then the seller defaulted on his loan to the bank, the Baal Chayv, the bank, gave him and has a right to collect from that apoitiki. You shouldn't have purchased this Eved, which was already committed to the bank, right? So you did it at your own risk, too bad, now paid up. But Shoyre v'chamori apoitiki, suppose Reuven, upon borrowing this money from the bank, designated his animal, his ox, his donkey as an apoitiki to the bank, and then he went and sold it. And then he defaulted on the loan. The bank has no right to collect from it. You know why? My time is like color. When you make an eved, a person, into an apoitiki, everybody knows, it makes news. So buyers beware. But an animal, nobody pays attention to, So you can't fault the buyer for buying into this item. So basically, you can't extract it from him. You can't cause him loss. You have no right to repossess it. And that explains our brisa, right? Reuven sold a par of talis to Shimon. Now there's trouble brewing. Levi wants to challenge Shimon's ownership. Reuven can come and vouch for Shimon. There's no conflict of interest. He's totally unbiased. He has no gain, no benefit from having Shimon retain ownership. Because even if Reuven had some sort of outstanding loan on which he's going to default, it doesn't matter. The bank will never repossess this item. Asks the Gemara, hold it, why? But let's have a concern that perhaps he did commit it to his loan. Despite it being metaltlin, but there is a manner, there's a way, there's a method to be meshabed metaltlin as well, to commit that towards loan repayment. Maybe he bundled the metaltli, the animal, together with a piece of property as one package to the bank. Just like you have the shibud, your claim, your lien on my properties, I'm giving you rights to claim the metalton as well, and it works. The Amar Rabbah says, if he granted him collection rights, metaltli agav mekarki, an item bundled with karka, kani mekarki, kani metaltli. The bank now has a right to access the property and the metaltli. So although you can't be meshabed metalton separate, but if you do it together with karka, Rashbam says a loshan demigu. Demigu de chayel shibud amekarki. Once the shibud works on this part of the deal, chayel nami amatatli, it spreads onto the metaltlin aspect as well. Just like we find when you make a kinyan, right? You can make a kinyan chazak on property, and together with that kinyan agav, you bundle together metaltlin. It's one package. So since it's part of a karka package, it works. So maybe that's what happened. Reuven, the seller, really had already committed this item to the bank through a kinyan agav. So now he has an interest in, maintaining this item so that the bank can access it and apply it towards his loan. Rav Chizr added to this point of kinyan agav. You have to be careful and do it right. It only works provided the Kosav lay that when he did this kinyan agav, he wrote him as follows. He wrote to him, Deloika smachta. This is not just an exaggeration. And Rashbam says, here you have to be very careful, since it wasn't really a proper sale, it's just a shibud. It almost looks like he's just, promising him in an exaggerated way. Look, if I'm not going to pay you, you're going to take this, you're going to that. So you have to be careful and just specify, look, this is serious business. This is not an exaggeration. Asmachta means I'm relying. I'm really not serious. I'm just trying to convince you to trust me that I'll repay you, right? Gain some credibility. No, that's not what it's a real commitment. The loikatev said the shtar, it's not like a standard form, commercial document. It's personal, it's real, it's committal. Okay, so back to the question. Maybe this is what happened. The bank will repossess this para. So Reuven is gaining from this whole was speaking the Bryce is speaking about a case where he purchased this animal and sold it right away. So there was never a moment in time that he could have committed this animal to the bank. Okay, so that's not an issue. Asks the Gemara, but still, we should be concerned. Dilma de ikni, who the Amarle maybe. Initially, when he signed up for the loan, he promised the bank, I'm giving you what I have now. I'm committing my current assets, and any future assets that I will purchase down the road is also included in this commitment. So as soon as he buys that animal, even for a split second, even if he turns around and sells it right away, it doesn't matter. At that very moment, it's committed to the bank. Shamas Minosa, perhaps the fact that we're not concerned about this, does that teach us that the ikni, when a person does commit future possessions, and then kana umachar, and he buys something down the road, but he sells it right away. Kana bayish, or he buys it and passes away, inherits it to his kids. Loy mishtabit, since it's currently not in his possession, right? Because he bought it, but then a week later he sold it, so it's currently in somebody else's possession. Loy mishtabit, it's not committed to the bank, to the malva, as per loan repayment, because the ikni only works as per his possessions for some reason. Can we conclude as such from the fact that we're not concerned about this, right? Because that's what we're speaking, that although he may have said the ikni, but since the item is now sitting in the other person's possession, it's not committed to the bank. Well, like Tzricha says, no, not necessarily, because perhaps we're speaking the Ka'amri Edim, because the Edim are testifying, Yad Inan Be'Bahai to Le'Havali Arma Olam. What was your question? Maybe he committed the para agav the karka. We have Edim who are testifying for us that this fellow never had karka. So it's not really applicable. Asks the Gemara. But we have still one more kasha on this whole halacha. You're telling me he's not an interested party, he's totally neutral, he has no potential gain from Vamar Papa. But doesn't Rav Papa tell us? You see what happened here? Reuven sold the para to Shimon. And along comes Levi, claims to be the owner of this para. Reuven can turn around and back up Shimon against Levi. Why? Because he sold the para shalei b'achrayis. Right? He didn't warranty the sale. He's not responsible for the sale, so he's just being a nice fellow. He's not really gaining anything from this whole. No, says the Gemara. V'amar Papa, doesn't Rav Papa tell us, Afagav Damar Rabban, even though the Rabbanan tell us, HaMeicher Sadul Chaverish Lebachrayis, when you sell a field to somebody without achrayis, Uba Ba'achay V'tarfa. For sure, the bank comes along and grabs it from the buyer. The buyer has no recourse. He can't go back to the seller because it was a freestyle sale. There was no warranty involved. Ein Chayzer Olav. And ultimately the buyer did have some gain. The bank repossessed the property going forward, but he still has the payers that he grew there. The bank has no right to take that, so he still has something. So it's still somewhat of a deal. He got something from it. But if it's nimtza is sheina shaloi, it's been discovered that this field never belonged to the seller. It was robbed from Levi. When Levi comes and repossesses, he takes everything, lock, stock, and barrel with the payers. Chayzer olav. So now the buyer can go back and knock on Reuven's door. What do you do to me? It's a mekach tov. It's a mistaken transaction. I got zero from this thing. He took everything, all the bananas, everything. So true, the Brisa was speaking that he sold the par of a talis shalei b'achrayis. I understand. But here, the buyer was being challenged by another party who claimed to have been robbed. So now he's going to take everything. And basically, it's a mekach tos. It's a mekach tos. And in that case, Shimon does have recourse. He can go back to Reuven and reclaim his money, demand a refund for the par of a talis. So sure, Reuven has very much interest in maintaining Shimon's ownership. So he's going to get be'edus. How could he testify? Says the Gemara, Hachav Mayaskina was speaking, Shimon himself knows firsthand that this animal, this donkey for instance, or in the case of a cow, it was born in Reuven's farm. It's bas chamoire. It was an offspring of his animal, so there's no question in his mind that this thing belongs to Reuven. So you can't. So even though he was challenged by Levi, who might take it away from it, it's clearly a farce. It's a fake. We know he knows himself that it belonged to Reuven, so he can't come back and ask for a refund. So once again, Reuven has no real vested interest in this whole in this whole litigation process, because he has nothing to gain, nothing to lose. Rav Zvid said, "Afilu nimtzas sheina shaloi." He disagrees with Rav Papa's idea. He says, "Look, even if it's been discovered that this item never belonged to Reuven the seller, which allows Levi to just take it away from Shimon, ein chayzer olav. Shimon still has no right to go back and ask for reimbursement from Reuven. You know why? Because Reuven can tell Shimon, you remember, that's exactly why I did not commit to achrayus, because I knew that there's a good chance we're going to lose it to the real owner, so I don't want any claims, any complaints from you. So yeah, Reuven is not gaining or losing from this whole story, and therefore he's not a negeh be'edus, and he has a right to testify on Shimon's behalf. So in summary, we have a brisa with two parts: real estate and non-real estate. Yesterday we learned Rav Shesh's pshat in the brisa involving a fellow who stole and then sold, and now the victim wants to fend off a stranger who's claiming ownership. When it comes to real estate, which he plans on getting back from the victim, from the current possessor, then he's a negeh be'edus. He can't get involved because he's just arranging for his own retrieving of that property. Whereas when it comes to a non-real estate item, it's been disconnected from his ownership and he can't reclaim it anymore. So he's not a negeh be'edus. He's not an involved party. So he can provide testimony. That was one pshat. We had several kashas on that. Pshat number two was Shmuel's pshat. Skipped the robber, right? It was a fellow who sold a property, or in the second case, he sold a parah v'talis, and there's a challenger to this ownership, right? There's another person coming claiming ownership. The seller can vouch for it, can vouch for the buyer's ownership when it comes to a parah v'talis, because he has no gain or loss in the matter. When it comes to karka, he can't be involved because he has potential gain, because he's technically making it available to his Baal Chayiv, who might come repossess this property on account of a defaulted loan. All the best to you, B'suras Tayves, and Atzlacha Rabbah.